Arthur Reed Ropes was a British writer of lyrics and musical comedies, writing as Adrian Ross. He was born in 1859 in Lewisham, the son of merchant William Hooper Ropes and Ellen Harriet Hall. He attended Priory House School in Clapton, Mill Hill School and the City of London School, and later King's College. In 1883, during an illness, he wrote the libretto to a double event, this being the beginning of his musical career, writing more than 60 musical comedies. He also taught history at Cambridge from 1884 to 1890. After 1892 he abandoned burlesques to write almost all the productions for the New Gaiety Theatre, with more serious contemporary settings. In 1901 he married actress Ethel Wood, having one son and 2 daughters. In 1930 he retired from the musical business and died in 1933 in London due to heart failure. He wrote one children's novel with his sister Mary Emily Ropes, On Peter's Island, in 1901. In 1914 he wrote his only solo novel, The Hole of the Pit. Set in 1646, it has Hubert Layton, somewhat of a Puritan, be called to take a side in the English Civil War, both by his cousin Philip the Earl of Deeping, who is for the king, and by Cromwell himself, whom Hubert knows somewhat. Ignoring both, Hubert wishes to stay at home and avoid siding with either party. But a strange man with a giant sword at his side comes to his house to prophesy and divine from the Bible. He is Master Eldad, lay priest to the men of Marsham, the village owned by his cousin the Earl of Deeping, and has come to ask for Hubert's aid. He says Philip had come back from the war with an Italian woman whom the old man says is a witch, and soon after Philip's wife Margaret, also Hubert's cousin, was dead, and Philip demanded the men of Marsham to give him all the supplies and food they had, lest he burn down every single house in Marsham. Hubert is to intercede with the Earl, but as they come they find Marsham raided, and Eldad's house and the church meeting place blown up by gunpowder. Hubert goes to Deeping Hold, passing the ruins of the first castle which fell into the marsh, leaving behind the hole, an ominous place from which mysterious death came to one of the Earls of Deeping, and which is foretold to come again to the last holder of the title. Arriving at Deeping Hold, which can only be reached by boat, as it is in the middle of the marsh, Hubert's mission of mercy is ignored by Philip, who has his boat chopped into firewood, keeping him a prisoner. Here he meets both the mysterious Italian, whom he calls the Signoria, as well as Rosamond, his cousin and kinswoman to the dead Countess. Philip, it seems, is indeed haunted by Margaret's image everywhere, and it is soon apparent he murdered her for the sake of the Italian. Hubert is then made to come with as Philip sacks and burns Marsham, though Eldad, having stolen a suit of armour from one of the dead Earls of Deeping, fights him bravely. Captured, Philip has Eldad thrown into the hole, but then the armour comes back up again, except it is empty aside from a single severed foot. Returning to the hold, Philip awaits the coming of Cromwell's army, for now considering himself well hidden in the marshes. But soon a strange slimy thing creeps from the hole, and begins to pick off his men one by one with its tentacles. The Italian tries to use some devilish sorcery to save them, but the incantation goes wrong with terrible results. The dead can no longer be buried, as their bodies are sucked up by the slime of the marsh, and the hold crumbles bit by bit. During this time, Hubert and Rosamond do fall in love, united by their hatred of the Italian, who is always scheming and plotting. At one point she tries to convince Hubert to kill Philip, her own lover, to become the new Earl of Deeping. The men, what men there are left, are paralysed by fear as Philip goes more and more insane, wishing to blow up the entire Deeping hold with the cache of gunpowder he stole from Cromwell. Of course Hubert survives, as does Rosamond, but there is nothing left of Deeping Hold but a pile of old stones. The one minor fault of the story is that Hubert has a tendency to see odd shadows and then disregard them. When doing so, almost always leads to many people dying. You would think he'd learn to stop thinking nothing of it after the 4th time.